Welcome back, everybody. Derrick Soo, your East Oakland advocate. Well, I'm wrapping up our Remembering Bruce Lee. This is the 50th anniversary. It was June 20th, 1973, when Bruce Lee suddenly died. And so I've been talking about Bruce Lee's influence here on the Bay Area and here in Oakland. And he influenced also my Kung Fu here that I learned in Oakland. And uh, Bruce Lee actually even had a book of techniques. It was called Bruce Lee's Book of Jeet Kune Do Techniques. And it came out originally in 1972. I remember my dad brought it home. He purchased it from a little corner store that used to exist in the Oakland Chinatown back then, and it was on 8th and Webster. It was run by an older couple, and all they did was sell um, uh, magazines, the Chinese newspaper, and smokes. That's all they did. And they were there for decades at that corner until they passed away. But that's where my dad bought Bruce Lee's book of Jeet Kune Do Techniques. And I remember looking at it. It was so cool because it was bordered and framed in a magazine. It wasn't a book. It wasn't thick enough to be a book. It was less than 100 pages, and it was mostly photos of how to do different techniques. While some of that you had to improvise, but most of it was laid out in a fashion that you could easily follow. And there were even a couple that I kept in mind all the time. And one of the things that I my Sifus and also Bruce Lee did low blows. You hit low and you hit fast, and that was one of the techniques uh, that I incorporated into all of my fighting style. Not that I was lacking it to begin with, because remember, I grew up on the streets of East Oakland fighting day and night, and I fought whites, I fought blacks, I fought Hispanics. It was rare that I fought my own, but in 1977 and 1978, I did. And I was every one of the family associations that were very prevalent in Oakland, Chinatown at that time. They each had their own enforcers, and that was people like me, and we would resolve the issues there in Chinatown: robberies, thefts, extortions, things like that. We would go take care of. It wasn't Oakland Police Department. In fact, the Chinese community was very, very separate from the police department. And the only time that the police came into Oakland Chinatown was to get lunch, until we started having Asian officers who were more familiar with the mindset of Chinatown at the time. Because you got to remember, it's barely been 20 years since the United States Supreme Court rescinded all of the racist laws that were on the books for decades that harmed our family and stole my family's generational wealth. And so, anyway, each of the family associations, they had enforcers. I was one of those enforcers, or what you may know as a Dai-Lo, and that's a big brother. And the only people that we answer to is Uncle, and Uncle is in charge of the family association. That's who we take our marching orders from. And so we had the Long family, Lee family, plus ours that I spoke about in a previous episode. But I'm going to show you some techniques. I got to go out into the field, set this up, and so I'm going to show you some of the things that I remember from that Jeet Kune Do magazine. I don't have it anymore, but you can still find it online. if you look around, I did some browsing. I saw some, yeah, and it appears to be pretty similar. Different cover on it now, but overall the same thing. But we'll be right back. I'm going to show you those techniques, and hopefully you can incorporate them into your style too. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to focus on showing you some techniques. Some of the techniques came out of Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do uh, book magazine when it came out in the early 70s. I had a copy of uh, that book, and it made a lot of sense to me, and I remembered a lot of the uh, special techniques that he had to get out of common everyday occurrences. Some of the occurrences, one of the ones that we see all over the internet is the rear naked choke, where they come up from behind you, arm wraps around your neck, and they put pressure on the carotid arteries and also possibly uh, cut off your windpipe. And so typically you have between 8 and 12 seconds, sometimes a little longer if they're not applying it right, to still get out of that. And a lot of people say, well, you grab here and then put your chin down to block them from uh, choking your windpipe off, but that doesn't stop your carotid arteries, and that's where your blood flow is. And if you're not getting blood flow to your brain, you're not going to stay conscious. So one of the things that I've used in the past, when that arm is around your neck, bite them. I do everything rather than trying to pull them down. I'm pushing them up and pushing my chin down, trying to get these teeth across some meat on that arm. I guarantee you, when I bite down, I'm taking a chunk out of you. I'm like a piranha. I'm going to take a big chunk out of your arm, and that's going to release you. Another good technique, which was part of Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do. While you're being held back there, he just reaches back right behind you because your arm is probably going to be free. And so what you want to do is just grab him by the nuts. Just grab his nuts and squeeze hard. That's one of the easiest ways to get out of there, and one that most people don't expect. And you don't need a lot of arm strength. You just need some fingernails and the grab and twist. When you grab hold, twist, and believe me, they're going to let go of you. Another technique that can be done, which for you ladies, it's really great because while you're being held from behind, or even if your arms are being held, you're wrapped around this way, and you're inside, and you can't move your arms. Well, here's a technique from Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do technique book, and that was number one. You ladies, a lot of you have heels, stilettos. They're called stilettos for a reason, because they're deadly weapons. What you want to do, take your foot and heel stomp. You want to heel stomp the opponent, the person who's grabbing you. You want to just get an eye on where their feet are positioned and stomp. I mean, use a stabbing downward motion with your leg and that heel into the metatarsus. The metatarsus bone on the foot is a very sensitive bone. You stab that, you break it, that person can't walk. And so they're going to break the hold. And at the same time, in the Jeet Kune Do book, not only are you stomping down on the foot of the opponent, but also because your arms are locked up, what you want to do, your elbow, you want to bury that elbow into that person's rib. And so what you're going to do while you're still here, you want to bend your arms, and then at the same time, turn as hard as you can, and at the same time, boom, 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 like that. You just into their ribs, and that's going to break their hold typically. And at the same time, once that hold is broken and your arms, what you want to do is immediately come up and turn. to the opponent, or while they're breaking the hold, you run. That's one of the best techniques and easiest techniques that anybody can do. You don't need a lot of strength. I taught that to my 10-year-old stepson prior to him being jumped by three teenagers that were near his size, but mentally he was 3 years younger than all of them because he is a very tall kid. And so he had a lot of issues with older kids bullying him. And so him and I spent 14 hours together working out, and I showed him some things. We also did some real hits. I didn't hit him real hard, but I hit him hard enough so that it got his attention, so that it also taught him about pain management and getting hit. And that's where a lot of people fall down, is when they get hit, because they're not expecting that pain or the blood or whatever happens at that point. And all of a sudden you freeze up. And that's the worst thing that you can do. So another thing that we can do on the choke, if you ladies, if you're being held by your clothes, by your neck or by your throat. A technique that Bruce Lee used was uh, just taking your hands, just coming straight up. You see the angles on that's going to break that hold, no matter how good of a grip that person's got. That grip is not strong enough when you push up as hard as you can to break the arms or to break that grip of while they're holding your neck or your clothing. Just come straight up, and that breaks the hold. And at the same time, while they're breaking the hold, that gives you an opportunity to run. But if you need more time, what you want to do, what I call the dragon's kiss. And so I give that person a dragon's kiss. Taught a lot of ladies the dragon's kiss, and you ladies are going to love this. Number one, if they have that situation where they grab your shirt, they got you by the neck, do the break, come straight up, and at the same time, you want to take the arms and then lock in their arms, and then at the same time, while you're back, you're going to be pulling in and using the top of your head, this section of your head, to bash in the person's either his eyes, nose, mouth. But what you want to do is center below the brows and above the lip. That's where you want to hit them as hard as you can with that dragon's kiss. And nobody expects that. And that's part of Muay Thai and close quarter combats. That's one of my go-tos when I'm in the 24-inch circle. And there's a lot of different size circles that you're going to encounter in the event you get into a fight. You have the standard 6-foot circle. 6-foot circle, that's more arm length for each individual. And then you have the 3-foot circle. The 3-foot circle is the typical combat circle. But for me, because I'm a close quarter and up close and personal specialist in fighting and fighting techniques, I want to cut that 36-inch circle into a 24-inch circle. And now what I've just done, I've disarmed all of my opponents, because all of my opponents, they're used to just swinging arms. Well, I've taken that away from them, because swinging is not an option. I'm in close. I'm using forearms, elbows, the wrist, the hammer, and then also gripping. And also what you're doing in close quarters, you're using Muay Thai knee strikes. This hard knee strike right here, right to the groin area, right to the inner thigh of each person. If you want to take a person out, it's not much different by taking your leg up, but then instead you're going to do an outward thrust kick to the outside of but you're going to strike the inside of your opponent's knee, or slight angle straight on, and it's going to either break the leg or seriously tear the tendons to that knee, disabling the opponent, your opponent, and they never see it coming. They rarely see it coming. But one of the things that you don't want to do is get into a stupid fighting stance. What I do, I just put my hands up like this, open. This signals, hey, I don't want any trouble. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to fight you. But yet, that is a hand position for when a person comes in and attacks you, because that gives you all the options, moving in many different directions, gripping, blocking. So keep that in mind. And you're not going to tip off your opponent, whether you know any kind of fighting or not, because if you do fists, yeah, that's telling a person, sending a person the wrong signals, and you don't want to be sending that. What you want to do is slightly take them off guard, keeping your hands open, keeping your hands up, which is normal. This is a normal hand position for victims, and so you're concealing your possible uh, counter ambush when the time is right. So those are some of the tips that I want to share with you today. There's going to be many more. If you have some questions, send them along to me. I'll see what I can do to put together for you the techniques or the elements that you're going to need to get out of the situation. Thanks for joining me today. I'll be right back.